Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nitsa coming back with another Bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I wanted to talk about the three-headed monster, the McDSP Retro Pack, how I was able to, get some of this professional type of sound that I really like a lot. It was really type of smooth for this song right here. So if you guys do have any more questions or comments, go ahead and drop it down below. I'm more than happy to get to it. Let's not waste no time. Let's not waste a second. Let's get right to the music. Come on.
Niggas tryna network, but I only work for my net worth. My head hurt, I'm tryna pinpoint how the odds work. I feel no hurt. White shirt, I'm tryna come up like I'm Big Worm. Bitch, I'm lit like a concert. Bad bitch, let me insert withdrawals. I'm ducking, cause I don't stop for the ops. I'ma take off, I'm serving Migos across the street. Niggas know that's my people. Not to be confused with the other side. Suicide, tryna run no. I love my life, can't lose that. I've been in my zone for too long, I gotta use that. Like the kid back on my waist. I move in silence and I soak up the game.
Ooh, so that's what we got right here. So the very first thing I wanted to talk about right now is the McDSP Retro 4030 Retro compressor. So this one is pretty good right here, and I kind of wanted to go over the controls today. So the very first thing out the gate, I love this compressor because it gives me the sheen, it gives me the brightness without using boosting EQ. So sometimes that's what I always try to talk about. Maybe you guys can pick a bright compressor that will give you the benefits of the brightness without the cons of boosting up more sibilance or harshness or anything like that, because those frequencies are all kind of in the same type of area. So the main thing about the controls, I wanted to go over it today. So the ratio is kind of like how dense or skinny or fat the compression you want it to be. So usually with the lighter ratio, that's going to let you put more of your hands inside the grocery bag to collect more stuff. A heavier ratio like a 4-to-1 or 6-to-1, that will work more like on the peak energy, so like whatever has the most signal, whatever's jumping out the most, it's going to clip it off, pretty much. So let's talk about the attack and the release time. So I'm going to use an example today that I usually be bringing up, kind of like a race. Okay, you see all these cars right here, right? Okay, so pretty much the attack time is like the positioning. Okay, so with the slower attack, it will let more of the transient come through, yeah, and that will make you perceive it as it's being in front of the race. If you use the faster attack time, that's going to clamp down more on the transient, the initial knock or the initial sound that's coming through, and that's going to make you perceive it farther away. So a slower attack time puts things in the front of the race, and a faster attack times put stuff all the way in the back of the race. The release time is how quick the compression gets off the line. So even though this car is all the way in the back, let's say if it does have a fast attack, I can get it to jolt forward by using a fast release. So even though it's all the way down here, it can figure out a way to get all the way to the front, kind of giving it like that boom, boom type of jolting movement. But a slower release, yeah, it's kind of like if the car was, just kind of like in the middle, or it's pretty much just kind of staying steady, it's kind of like driving at the same speed. It's kind of just going slow and steady. It's not really jolting off or not really making no progress in the race. So that's kind of how I see, attack time and release time, just to make it very elementary and easy for you guys. So let's get back to this music. So pretty much what I did, I love this compressor just due to the fact that you can compress a lot. It reminds me of analog hardware because this type of compression is very forgiving. So let's hear what it sounded like with and without.
The network, but I only work for my net worth. My head hurt, I'm trying to pinpoint how the odds work. I feel no hurt. White shirt, I'm trying to come up like I'm Big Worm. Bitch, I'm lit like a concert. Bad bitch, let me insert withdrawals. I'm ducking, cause I don't stop for the ops. I'ma take off, I'm serving Migos across the street. Niggas know that's my people. Not to be confused with the other side. Suicide.
So that's the thing about me, compression is all about the positioning. As you can hear, when I was just using this compressor, now you hear like the vocal really started to sit down in that mix, and it had a little bit of swag. That's a part of the McDSP compressor too. It has like this little high end type of sheen, type of smoothing, like chill, lead vocal, just lay back, and they know my net worth, cause I brought it. So the music, the way the rapper was rapping also told me I had to do the compression like that. Sometimes I like to let that race car jolt off the line fast. Depending on the song, if they rapping quick, I might do that. But in a situation like this, this, I was going with smooth mellow network, bad bit, let me insert. So yeah, pretty much, and this is pretty good too because it also lets you pull it back with the mix knob. So I was kind of heavy-handed with the compression, but that's very good that allows you to pull it back with the mix knob. All right, cool. So that was kind of like my brief overview of compression. Yeah, and with my attack and my release times on that one, you know, it was kind of, I would say the attack was kind of quick and the release was a normal. So it was just really just to kind of soothe it out. But depending on how you do those settings, you could get a different outcome. Now with my background vocals, I use the McDSP 402 or Retro EQ. I love this one a lot because, you know, it really just gives me something that is a familiar type of sound. That's what you got to go with sometimes, something that makes you feel familiar. You know, and this one, it just sounds very warm to me. So I'm going to show you guys, you know, kind of like what the EQ situation looks, you know, because before, like when I used to use pull text and stuff like that, I had no idea of how the EQ actually looks. So let's go over this today. So you have this, which is like a filter. Yeah. Okay. So everybody knows what a filter is. The main thing about filtering, it's kind of like another way of positioning too, you know, depending on where you want to put stuff at, but it uses frequencies versus where the compression uses dynamics to, you know, do the positioning. But that's what EQ is really about, you know, filtering. So yeah, it's pretty cool with this one here too. And you get to pick, you know, how far you want to go with the filters, but the main thing is also the low shelf. So, you know, a low shelf is kind of like something like this where, you know, it's like, it literally is like a bookshelf, you know, it's not like a filter where it cuts out everything, but it's kind of like a situation where, you know, it's like a hump. You know, it's kind of like a mountain or a cliff or something like that, where it's very musical, you know, it'll let everything come down, you know. So this is a low shelf. And then after that, you have something like here, which is a parametric bell. The main thing about this one too that is interesting, it doesn't give you the ability to adjust the Q, you know, versus where something like this, you know, the Q is kind of like the shape of it. This one is kind of like reminiscent to an API type of situation where if you go higher up, the Q will become more narrow. But if you go lower down, the Q will be more broad. So that makes it very musical. So this one is very different. Some EQs let you adjust the Q, but this one doesn't. And that's pretty interesting. Then last thing you have is a high shelf as well. So, you know, that's kind of what a high shelf looks like. So it's kind of important to understand what that stuff looks like, because maybe in your head, you might have been thinking that everything was looking like a bell or maybe just like a regular, you know, everything was looking like this, but that's not the true case. You know, usually those low and high filters, they're very musical tools that help you really like bring stuff out. And if you use it together with something like the filters, you could get a real interesting tone. So like, let's pay attention here. Like I was rolling off everything all the way to, you know, 14K. Then I started boosting at that same frequency. So it does like I'm like readjusting the high end pretty much. Like I'm making it smooth, but then, you know, sometimes when you do that smoothing at the top, you can lose a little bit of what he's saying. It will sound a little bit like, you know, type of situation like that. It's kind of like if you put some duct tape over the rapper, that's not what I necessarily wanted for the background vocals. So I started pushing it with a shelf. So it's kind of like a counter move. You know what I mean? You can use filters and shelves together to get like a certain type of smoothing.
The network, but I only work for my net worth. My head hurt, I'm trying to pinpoint how the odds work. I feel no hurt. White shirt, I'm trying to come up like I'm Big Worm. Bitch, I'm lit like a concert. Bad bitch, let me insert withdrawals. I'm ducking, cause I don't stop for the ops. I'ma take off, I'm serving Migos across the street. Niggas know that's my people. Not to be confused with the other side. Suicide, trying to run no. I love my life, can't lose that. I've been in my zone for too long, I gotta use that. I like the kid back on my waist.
So you guys hear a dramatic difference. It just sounds so much more analog. It sounds so much more natural. Before, when I had the EQ in, it kind of just sounded like cold and somewhat harsh. But like I said, I was using the filters as well as the shelf together to reshape the high end. So now it's smooth network. Now the background vocals are really like gluing a little bit better with the vocal. And also as well, like it's just like you want to hear more background vocals, where before it kind of sounded like a cold type of situation. And of course, I brought in the bell, like I showed you guys again. You know, this one is a shelf, but these ones in the middle, they're bell, you know, they're parametric pretty much. So yeah, I cut some low mid, and that's kind of like what I always do with my background vocals, because I don't really need that really with my background vocals. Sometimes I do let my background vocals be boomy and my lead vocal be skinny. It all depends on the music and how it sounds like, but you got to always keep your mind open when you're doing this stuff. Sometimes the background vocals are driving the song, sometimes the lead vocal and you just want it to be smooth. It all depends on what type of sound you're going for. All right, cool. Next thing after that, you know, I had some parallel compression, and I was using the CLA 76, and then I was using something like the McDSP retro limiter. So I kind of like to put the a limiter behind the 1176. I only do it with the 1176 because it controls that all buttons in type of movement. So sometimes you don't want it to be moving around a little bit too much, with the all buttons in mode. Sometimes you still want the sound of the distortion from the 76, the density from the parallel compression, but I use the limiter to keep it under control. And this limiter is pretty good because you can push it all the way to like 8 dB, 10, and it still sounds very natural. The McDSP stuff really just reminds me of hardware a lot.
A network, but I only work for my net worth. My head hurt, I'm trying to pinpoint how the odds work. I feel no hurt. White shirt, I'm trying to come up like I'm Big Worm. Bitch, I'm lit like a concert. Bad bitch, let me insert withdrawals. I'm ducking, cause I don't stop for the ops. I'ma take off, I'm serving Migos across the street. Niggas know that's my people, not to be confused with the other side.
So I use the McDSP right here. I like to use it because it kind of flattened out the parallel compression. When I turned off the limiter, you could kind of hear more of the transitions in between the words, the nuances, and I kind of didn't want that because this is a swag song. This is a mellow song. So I wanted it to sound smooth, the parallel compression. So I put a limiter at the back end of that. All right, cool. And yeah, pretty much I pushed it really hard. I made sure the red light was turned on because that means that I'm distorting the output. So that's kind of what I was going for too. Kind of like a clean but dirty sound at the same time, because he's talking dirty network, like hey her, so you gotta let the vibe of the rapper really just like determine all of your processing. And then the last thing, I had the retro limiter on my master fader as well, and I wanted to talk about this very important topic with you guys. So usually what I did is I had a situation where I weighed out the pros and the cons of using a limiter on my mix bus. I don't usually use it anymore, hardly like how I used to. Like before, what I used to use a limiter for is to make it louder, kind of like how most people do it. But then I realized I'm, effectively kind of compressing my mix when I'm hitting that limiter hard. I'm doing 3 to 4 dB. That will change the kind of the tonal balance of your mix as well as the vocal. Like it's kind of like a sandwich press, like how I said before. You get it like a panini sandwich, and you press that bit. When you're pressing that sandwich hard, like the stuff that's inside the sandwich is gonna start squeezing out, and that's kind of what a limiter is doing to your mix. So you got to think about it too. A situation like this, what I always usually do is I use something like a Fairchild or any type of analog model plugin that has an output gain. So I'm making my mix louder without actually squeezing it. Okay, and the only time I ever use a limiter on my mix like 3 to 4 dB is when I'm going for an effect, when I'm trying to squeeze or trying to make my vocal pop out a little bit more. So that's something that you guys should understand as well. But the McDSP retro limiter is pretty good because, like I said, it's very forgiving. It reminds me of hardware. You can really push this one really, 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 really hard. But of course, that will always kind of have some downfalls too, because your mix might sound a little bit more distorted depending on what limiter you're using. Especially if you use the L2, it's going to give you that digital distortion, but this retro limiter really gives an analog type of distortion that I like a lot. And it reminds me of the limiter inside of Ozone 5, not Ozone 9, but Ozone 5. So sometimes, I know you guys know this, Ozone 9, sometimes that bit just be sounding a little too new, a little too modern for me. So usually in a situation like that, I would go with the McDSP retro limiter. And if I didn't do something like that, I might sometimes even use both of the limiters, so I don't put all of the weight on one camel's back. I split it in half. I might be doing like 1 dB here, then 1 dB here. And yeah, that gets me to where I need to be without killing the dynamics of my song. Okay, so that's pretty much the end of the video that we had here today. I didn't want to talk about it too much. You guys could definitely demo these McDSP plugins for 2 weeks. I think McDSP, they got some great plugins. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Really do appreciate y'all. Now, any more questions or ideas, drop it down below. Don't forget to like the video and keep supporting. Thanks a lot. Peace.